We're back here on this health forum, we call it, and Bianca Naigad is here with me, and Christine Carey and Kumbi. They're talking about health and fitness, and at the break we were talking about what bread basket items should be in the traditional sense in the Bahamas. Bread basket items filled with starches and some things that you really shouldn't have. Tell us, what should a bread basket be in our country for good health and fitness?
So the easiest answer on this one is you keep the protein that you get from the eggs. Eggs are a bread basket item. You have whole grain breads is excellent, and whole grain rices are fine, and just the grains in general. They're excellent because they burn more slowly in the body, so that means it gives you a longer energetic run. It's not going to burn immediately and then you crash. The other things are all fruits and all vegetables. And that means root vegetables, leafy vegetables. That's what we need to be feeding our nation right now. Foods that we know the cost is going to come down if we create these as the bread basket items, and we're going to have people who are processing vitamins and minerals at a much higher rate and absorbing them, so it strengthens our brain power. It helps us to have a balanced endocrine system, and the endocrine system is what releases the stress hormones. Stress hormones are responsible for making us feel like we want to go into our shell and cry, or having depression or menstruation issues or imbalances with hormones in general. And this is starting very early in children. The other thing that I'll mention with some of the items that are very, very cheap at the food stores is that these things have a high amount of saturated fat. And then what happens, and this is an issue we have a lot of here, is diabetes. And so what happens when you have these saturated fat items, it goes into the cells of the body. And I think one of the things is that we forget that we're a living organism. We just see this, fairly physical body walking around, and we forget that there's a whole microcosm of life happening in here. There's individual cells that are feeding off of other things and the nutrients that we have. So when we have these high saturated fat foods, our cells are becoming fat. And guess what happens when the cells become fat and blocked? Our insulin isn't able to go in and open up the cell door, so to speak, to let the sugar into the cell to convert it to energy. That's a very basic explanation. So we have all this blood sugar floating around in our bloodstream, and we're not processing it, we're not using it. So we have to take insulin to help and rev open those cells to help us assimilate the sugar. And so one of the best things we can do is take out the saturated fat. So if you're someone who is diabetic, what we want to first discuss is how much meats are you eating, which are very high in saturated fat. How much processed packaged food are you eating? Because that's extremely high in saturated fat. The second thing, of course, is how do you burn fat? You move, you exercise, you get into fitness, so that it has to be a simultaneous agenda. Whenever you're approaching any sort of ailment that the human body has, you have to go into your body and say, how much movement is happening and how much of my nutrients am I getting from whole foods? It has to be combined. And you'll find so much success for anybody who's embarked on a fitness journey if you address your diet and you go to whole foods, meaning, let's put it a different way, because I like to think about what I have to take away, because that's easier than what I have to focus on. Take away packaged foods. You ought to be eating dark leafy green salads with every meal. You ought to be snacking on fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds. And if you start doing that, what you find is that you have energy all day long. You're not crashing at 3 and 4 o'clock. This change doesn't happen after 1 week. You have to be consistent.
Yeah. A whole lot of people are unable to exercise because of inflammation. So let's talk about inflammation and what causes inflammation in the body, in the joints, and wherever else. Let's speak to that.
So inflammation is the root cause of all disease. It is the root cause. Movement is one of the first things you do. If you have an inflammation, let's say you've got inflammation in your joints, you're arthritic or pre-arthritic. Of course, you're not going to keep doing this all the time. But what you want to do is get the rest of your body moving. You want to get out and walk, because you need to lessen the load on your cells through making sure that you don't have all of that fat anywhere that it is clogging you. You've got to make sure that your circulation is pumping, and you've got to make sure that you're eliminating toxins. And what the toxins come from, where do they come from? packaged foods, artificial foods, chemicals, and all of the preservatives that we have in the food that we eat. It also comes from stress. And we know that, of course, this lifestyle that we have, which is modern lifestyle, it's the norm now that everybody's stressed out. You have emotional stress, work stress, and all the rest of it. But how do you alleviate stress? You move. You have to move, and this goes back again to the endocrine system that's responsible for releasing hormones. So when the body feels stress, your body issues out adrenaline. That's the automatic response. And so the adrenaline is the only hormone in the human body that cannot release itself. So you actually have to do something, and this applies to women in birth as well. When you start to have your labor contractions, your body's releasing adrenaline.
Wow.
And it says to you, it's the fight or flight hormone, right?
Okay.
Either you're gonna get going, or you're gonna gotta do something. You're gonna move, or you're gonna try and defend yourself.
Yeah.
That's what adrenaline does. So if we're in a continued pattern of stress, the adrenaline builds. And it builds, and we just stay there. We go to the couch at the end of the day, we go lay down, we get into this mood. If you're in labor, you go sit down on the bed, you know? You're not moving. So the first course of action to address any inflammation is, what are you eating that's causing the toxins to accumulate in your body, that's causing that inflammatory response, wherever it is. Of course, you may have an injury, as an example, that causes an inflammation as well. You know, the area gets red or hot. That's an inflammation, which is positive because it's working to heal it. But if you have chronic inflammation, diet, number one, where are the toxins coming from? And number two, are you getting out and moving every single day for a minimum of 30 minutes?
Every day. Yeah,
Every day.
I'd like to add to that too, and I totally agree with everything you're saying. I even learned a few stuff just now. I'm so anxious to reach my class and share this information with them. But in saying that, the toxins that you get from all of these foods and the diabetic scenario and first of all, I mean, we're being plagued with diabetes, our people out there, and there's a simple solution. We don't have to do we don't have to wait until we reach the point where we have to see a doctor.
That's right.
There's a simple, well, not even get the solution yet, but preventative methods. You know, when they come to me, they're already trying to get rid of the diabetes by the time they reach me. But you've given me a world of knowledge just now. Just the small little things of what you put in your mouth, the breadbasket items that people pig out on. You know, changing the small little changes right there. And of course you want to get moving because, like you said, it's a combination of stuff. You want to change your eating habits and your moving habits. Adding and put those two together. You're eating slightly different. You're moving slightly more. And I think we're onto something here.
I think that for me and for maybe a lot of other people is we still don't know what are the right foods to be eating. I mean, besides what you said, so what are some anti-inflammatory foods that we could eat instead?
So one of the number one things that most Bahamians know is ginger. So there's a concoction. I talk a lot with the customers that I see on a daily basis at the store. And, you know, we talk a lot about bush medicines and healthy eating and fruits and vegetables and things. And this was shared with me by one of our older customers. And she says that every single morning she takes ginger root and she boils it down just a little bit to make her tea.
Okay.
And then if you want to add on another layer, you put in some turmeric, which is the Indian spice, you know, that very yellow one that has been acclaimed for reducing inflammation. But then again, if you look at Andrew Weil is big on the anti-inflammatory diet. At the very top of the list of his food pyramid is how he lists it. It's dark leafy greens. You want high minerals that help to flush the system. That's really the key. But Bianca, again, you know, you and I do a lot of our woman talking together when we're looking in the mirror, putting on makeup and silliness. But what is the reason why you, which other people might be going through, has that yo-yo relationship with with diet and exercise.
Yes, it's that I give up. I get stressed out and I give up. You know, I actually was away and I was treating myself in the United States for my 40th birthday. So I was on a road trip. So I wasn't active, and I kept on indulging in food, and then I wasn't active at all, and I just said yes to everything. And in 2 weeks I gained 10 pounds, and then I came here at 40 years old now, where my body's gone through its own thing where it doesn't work as fast as in my 30s. And then I just got into this depression and I gave up until I finally saw that Kumbi was going to be doing his class, and then I started to get back in my garden, which we have, and start getting active again, and ask you about everything. But I go up and down and up and down.
And you know something I learned? It's hard to be depressed and dance.
Yeah,
It is.
very true.
It doesn't go together.
No.
It's hard to be depressed and be outdoors in the ocean on the beach.
It doesn't
It's
go
hard to be
together.
depressed when you're with your friends and you're having a good laugh.
You know what? It's hard to gain weight and go back into society, because as a person that's gained weight, you get so much criticism from people that you don't even want to show yourself.
Wow.
And that could be something that's hindering
Wow.
people also.
Wow.
And you know, you just have to get past that and start working on yourself and get to that.
Because it affects
For
your
yourself.
self-esteem.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because then you start to overanalyze yourself and what you've done and what you haven't done. And yeah, it's true, you can get into that rut. But the key thing is, if anybody's going through that, is to get out and get moving. That's the very, very first thing. Even if you don't feel ready to address your diet. Some people are ready to say, okay, I want to make a dietary change, but I'm not ready to make a movement change yet. Well, start by putting in dark leafy green salads, or go and get whatever fruit you enjoy eating, and just start one a day. If you're on the side where you're like, nope, not ready for a dietary change, but I'm ready to get moving, get out and
Yes,
start moving.
start somewhere.
You have to
And
start with
like-
something.
Like Mr. Jones said earlier about you have to have some sort of self-will. You have to want to do this, something you asked earlier. And yes, you're so right. And a lot of times it's when that person has hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Some people have to go there. You'd be begging people all year to come work out, and they won't come.
There are a whole lot
You
of
know.
people who are on medication for hypertension,
Yes.
and I'm sure you will encourage them to exercise. But there are some people who want to drop those,
Pounds.
not
Inches,
pounds, but
inches.
the pills.
The pills.
That they're using.
Okay.
They want to get off medication.
Definitely.
Do you have suggestions for them?
Yes. The first thing is stay on your medication and start moving. And then start making your dietary changes. And then go back to your doctor and say, Doc, I need you to run my tests again. And do that for about 3 months. And after 3 months, if you're extremely consistent with dietary and fitness changes, most of the time, your doctor is going to find that there has been a decrease in the need for the medication that you need. And I see it all the time with the people who are really focused and adamant that they want to do it. But at the same time, I've come across people who think that, well, I'm going to start exercising and changing my diet, so I'm going to reduce my prescription because I think that I'm the doctor now. I've Googled how much, it should change. That's absolutely the wrong way to go about it. But you have to put the healthier changes in first. Give your body a period of time to assimilate those changes and to adjust to them, and go back to your doctor and say, listen, please reevaluate what my body is saying to you. I've changed this, this, and this, and I think there might be something positive for me to do here.
We have over 1,000 people in our country who are on dialysis, who have renal failure. And renal failure is caused by hypertension, and people who are diabetic when they have reached the stage where their kidneys shut down on them, and so they go on dialysis. Here again, diet is extremely important, even if you are on dialysis.
Absolutely. If you think about it, the body and its cells are constantly regenerating. You know, there's some things you can see online where it says that you have a new eyeball after every 3 months or whatever it is, or you have a new liver after 7 years, whatever those numbers are. Which means that if you start to make changes right now, within whatever period of time it is, you have an opportunity to create healthy cells. And if you've got enough healthy cells making up the organ or whatever system it is that you're trying to rehabilitate, if you're very focused on that and you're doing the right dietary and movement things, you have a possibility to heal that. You always have a possibility to heal. I will add to that, though, Mr. Jones, is that we also cannot disregard that the body is an energetic being, which means we have an energy field. And this is science, this isn't spirituality or religion, this is science. And what we have to recognize is that different emotions hold different energetic blockages in parts of our body. This is why we hear all the time, we have to address things body, mind, and spirit. You hear it all the time. You've heard it for your entire life. It's not just something that we say. We have to really break it down and understand what that means. So today we're really focusing on diet and exercise. That's the body. But then those things affect the mind, and the mind affects the health of the spirit. The spirit being your projections on life, the goodness that you give out to others, your feelings of community, and so on. There's lots more. Every single thing is connected. And so if we start to create health within the cells, we can clear energetic blockages and we can create more positivity.
We have to take another break. We are on this special forum with Bianca Naigad, and we are talking about, I say with Bianca Naigad because Naigad is producing a series of programs on keeping Bahamians healthy. And we're going to take this break here and we'll come right back.